The older I get, the more I realize something most people never prepare for. Not retirement, not money, not even loneliness. They never prepare for the silence, because one day life gets quiet, really quiet. And if you're over 60 listening to this right now, deep down, you probably already know exactly what I mean. The phone rings less, old friends slowly disappear, your children build lives of their own, the world keeps moving, while your circle becomes smaller and smaller, and suddenly your happiness depends on something nobody warned you about, what's left inside you. When there's nowhere left to hide from yourself. My name is Henry, I'm 84 years old, and after living this long, I can tell you something with complete honesty. The people around you are not what decide whether old age feels peaceful or painful. I've seen people surrounded by family every single day and still feel deeply empty inside, and I've also seen people sitting completely alone, yet carrying a kind of peace most people never experience in their entire lives. That's the truth nobody tells you early enough. We spend decades chasing attention, approval, relationships, success, validation, but almost nobody teaches us how to build a life that can still hold us together. When all of those things slowly fade away, and trust me, one day they do fade more than you expect. So before we go further, if this feels personal to you, or reminds you of someone you love, take a second to like this video, because you are not the only person who has ever felt this way. When people imagine getting older, they usually imagine loneliness as the biggest fear. An empty house, quiet mornings, a phone that barely rings anymore. But after living this long, I've realized something most people misunderstand. Loneliness is not always the absence of people. Sometimes it's the absence of stability inside yourself, and that changes everything, because the first thing that matters more than people in old age is your body, not perfection, not looking young, just a body that still allows you to live with dignity. Let me show you something younger people almost never think about. You wake up before sunrise, the room is cold, silent, you place your feet on the floor. And before your mind fully wakes up, your body answers a question. Can you stand up without pain today? Can you walk to the kitchen without your knees tightening? Can you carry your groceries without feeling weak? When people are younger, they ignore their bodies because they assume strength will always be there. It won't. One day your body becomes the line between freedom and dependence, and nothing humbles a human being faster than losing simple independence. I've seen proud men quietly break down because they needed help putting on their shoes. I've seen people trapped inside their own homes because climbing stairs became impossible. And here's the hard truth nobody likes talking about. Independence is dignity. The moment your body stops cooperating, fear quietly enters your life. Fear of falling, fear of becoming a burden, fear of needing permission just to live normally. That's why the real advice is simple. Walk every day, stretch your body, maintain your strength, keep moving. Even on the days you don't feel like it, because the body you ignore at 45 becomes the body controlling your life at 75. And if you're over 60 listening right now, your future is already being shaped by the habits you repeat today. But this becomes even heavier when we talk about the second thing that matters: stability, financial stability, not luxury, not status, just enough peace to sleep at night without fear sitting in your chest. Most people spend their lives trying to look successful, while secretly living anxious every single month, and fear feels very different when you're old. At this age, one unexpected bill can steal your sleep for weeks. One medical emergency can change your entire future overnight. Imagine waking up every single morning with worry already sitting in your chest. Before your coffee even has time to cool down, you start calculating numbers in your head: rent, medicine, bills, unexpected expenses, and in the back of your mind, one question keeps repeating itself: what happens if something goes wrong? That kind of pressure slowly poisons your peace. And here's the truth most people avoid hearing. Financial stress becomes emotionally heavier as you get older because your options become smaller, your energy changes, recovery takes longer, and time suddenly feels very real. I've seen people with very modest incomes live calm, steady lives simply because they understood how to live simply, and I've seen wealthy people trapped in constant anxiety because their entire identity depended on appearances, a bigger house, a nicer car, looking successful for other people. But peace does not come from appearance. It comes from stability, from knowing your life is manageable, predictable, safe enough to let your nervous system finally rest. And if you've made it this far, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, because most people ignore these truths until they're already living the consequences of them. But there's something even more dangerous than financial fear, a life with no rhythm. This is where many people quietly begin disappearing emotionally without even realizing it. The third thing that matters is routine, not perfection, not some strict military schedule, just structure. Because when your days lose structure, your mind slowly loses stability too. I learned this after my wife passed away. At first, I thought freedom meant doing whatever I wanted, sleeping late, eating whenever I felt like it, watching television half the night. But after a few months, something strange started happening. Time stopped feeling real. Mondays felt exactly like Thursdays. Entire weeks disappeared without leaving behind a single meaningful memory. And that kind of emptiness is terrifying, because it happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. So eventually, I rebuilt structure into my life. Wake up at 5:30, coffee on the porch, feed the birds, work in the garage, lunch at noon, evening walks before sunset. Nothing impressive, nothing glamorous. But here's what I discovered. Routine anchors the human mind. Small rituals create emotional stability, and in old age, emotional stability becomes priceless, because a peaceful life is not built through dramatic moments. It's built quietly, slowly, in the small things people usually overlook. But eventually we arrive at something even deeper, because routine alone is not enough. The fourth thing that truly matters is purpose. And this is where many people begin fading long before their bodies ever fail. Imagine waking up every morning feeling like nothing is waiting for you anymore, nothing needs you, nothing pulls you forward. That feeling drains the human spirit faster than aging itself. I've watched retired people emotionally collapse within just a few years. Not because they were sick, but because they lost all direction. No purpose. No anticipation. No reason to keep moving. But here's what changes everything. Purpose does not need to be grand. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need the world's attention. It just needs to exist. A small garden in the backyard, a dog waiting for you at the door every morning, building birdhouses in the garage, reading one chapter with your coffee before sunrise. Tiny things create momentum, and momentum keeps the spirit alive. That's something younger people often misunderstand. Meaning is not discovered in one magical moment. It's built quietly, through repetition, through caring about something enough to come back to it again tomorrow. And once you truly understand that, life stops feeling empty. But now we arrive at the truth most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. The fifth thing that matters is learning how to be at peace alone, not distracted, not entertained. At peace, because eventually silence comes for everyone. One day the house becomes quieter, the phone rings less often, the world slows down around you, and in old age, emotional stability becomes priceless. Because a peaceful life is not built through dramatic moments. It's built quietly, slowly, in the small things people usually overlook. But eventually we arrive at something even deeper, because routine alone is not enough. The fourth thing that truly matters is purpose. And this is where many people begin fading long before their bodies ever fail. Imagine waking up every morning feeling like nothing is waiting for you anymore. Nothing needs you, nothing pulls you forward. That feeling drains the human spirit faster than aging itself. I've watched retired people emotionally collapse within just a few years. Not because they were sick, but because they lost all direction, no purpose, no anticipation, no reason to keep moving. But here's what changes everything. Purpose does not need to be grand. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need the world's attention. It just needs to exist. A small garden in the backyard, a dog waiting for you at the door every morning, building birdhouses in the garage, reading one chapter with your coffee before sunrise. Tiny things create momentum, and momentum keeps the spirit alive. That's something younger people often misunderstand. Meaning is not discovered in one magical moment. It's built quietly, through repetition, through caring about something enough to come back to it again tomorrow. And once you truly understand that, life stops feeling empty. But now we arrive at the truth most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. The fifth thing that matters is learning how to be at peace alone, not distracted, not entertained. At peace, because eventually silence comes for everyone. One day the house becomes quieter, the phone rings less often, the world slows down around you, and in those quiet moments, you finally meet yourself. That's what most people are truly afraid of. Not loneliness, not aging, silence, because silence exposes everything distraction was hiding. I've met people who couldn't sit quietly for even 5 minutes without turning on the television, reaching for their phone, or finding some way to escape their own thoughts. Because when your entire life is built around avoiding yourself, silence feels unbearable. But here's what slowly changed my life. I stopped running from quiet moments. I learned how to sit alone on my porch with no noise, no distractions, and simply exist, and little by little, solitude stopped feeling empty. It started feeling peaceful. That's the difference most people never understand. Silence becomes painful when you spend your whole life trying to escape yourself. But once you become comfortable in your own presence, something extraordinary happens. You stop needing the world to constantly comfort you. You stop depending on noise to feel okay. You stop chasing distractions just to avoid your own mind. And that changes everything. So if this video resonates with you, subscribe and stay with me for the next one, because some truths only become clear after enough years of living. And most people don't hear them until it's too late. When you step back and look at old age honestly, the picture becomes surprisingly simple. A body that still moves, enough financial stability to sleep peacefully at night, small daily routines, a reason to wake up in the morning, and a mind that can sit quietly without fear. With those things in place, life no longer needs to be loud to feel meaningful. It becomes calmer, steady, more honest, because one day, whether we like it or not, everybody eventually leaves the room, and what remains is the life you built inside yourself. So ask yourself honestly, are you building a life that depends entirely on other people? Or are you building one that can still stand peacefully on its own? I'm Henry, and I'll see you in the next video.